will start now. Others may join subsequently as and when they join. See, before I start today's class, I have to make one or two announcements. From 1st of May, what I will be doing is, besides these weekly Zoom classes, in which I will be coming up with 2 model questions and answers and 2 case studies, and along with that model answers on YouTube channel, I will be posting daily either one case study or one model question. So target will be that by October, we will be covering about 100 model questions and 100 case studies, which may be quite useful to the students, particularly who are appearing in 2025 Civil Services main exam. So with that aim, besides weekly classes, weekly case studies and questions, daily one question or case study I will be also posting on YouTube channel. So whosoever is interested may join there and find it. Another thing is, today we will be first taking up the last week's 2 questions I gave and 2 case studies. What will be the model answer for those questions and model answer for case. Now, another thing, today we will also decide the timetable for our next 2 months, that is May and June. And my proposal is that by June end, I will be finishing the theory part of both part A of GS4 ethics and case study ethical theories, etc. Because last week, if you remember, I told there are about 30 ethical principles or theories which usually we apply in the case studies for their analysis or for their framing the answers, etc. So by June end, we will be covering that. And after that, we will have more intensive discussion on model answers for various questions and the case studies answers also. So that timetable for next 2 months also, I will be presenting before you. So first of all, we will go to see how those 2 questions and the case studies can be tackled, which we gave last week. And for that, I have to share the documents. Let me share that and then we will continue. We have to first take up the model answers for last week questions. But before that, one more thing I just want to tell all of you. In fact, that in brief we discussed last week also. What should be our answer writing strategy for questions as well as case studies? Even though last week we discussed, but just I want to repeat once again for all the students because this is very, very important. First we will go through what should be our question writing or answer writing strategy for the UPSC GS4 ethics paper. See, first and foremost point is you have to mention the ethical frameworks. So link your points to moral theories. Some of you might have already gone through that. In due course, we will also go through all these theories. So you have to link up your answer to moral theories like deontology of Kant or Mill and Bentham utilitarianism. That is also a form of consequentialism. Then virtue ethics of Aristotle, or we say Indian philosophy or Indian ethics, whether it is Gita or whether it is Buddhist or whether it is Gandhi. So either, whichever is applicable, you will have to mention. Then you have to mention keywords also. Some of the keywords here it has been given, but you have to prepare a list of keywords basically. For example, integrity, objectivity, compassion, sympathy, justice, probity, neutrality, and so on. At least about 100 to 200 such words you have to prepare and understand the meaning of each so that you can use these words appropriately whenever required while answering either the theoretical answers of part A or even case studies of part B. Structure of your answer has to be basically, if you, in fact, this is acronym for ideal also. So you can remember that way also. First introduction, but again, last week also I told, again I'm repeating, your number of words for which you are answering, for example, 150 or 250. Till now, we have seen the question papers. First part is mostly 150 word question. Second part, case studies, is 250 words. But in 250 words also, there are 2-3 sub parts you have to make it. So there is not much scope of introduction. However, yes, some very brief keyword or some definition, etc., you have to mention, and directly you have to come to the point. Then break up the issue in multiple aspects. So if some issue is there, or some definition is asked, or some application is asked, you have to break up in sub points, and then you have to reply. So basically, first is introduction, and then various dimensions of the idea or the point for which it has been asked. And then ethical analysis. You have to apply theories, ethical theories. Last week I told there are about 30 such ethical theories which can be applied in different contexts, depending on which is applicable where. That also we will understand very, uh, uh, in fact, in our due course in various lectures, we will understand. So application of ethical theories or principles is very, very important. Then if we see application plus examples. Now this is again very important thing. See, not only in case studies, but while writing the part A answers, you will have to see what is its application, because here ethics paper is not a very theoretical paper. It is basically a practical paper. So you have to see what kind of application it can be made and what are the real world examples. So that also you need to mention. And then anyway, conclusion. Now your conclusion has to be positive. It has to be futuristic. It has to be forward looking. It cannot be a negative kind of conclusion. So this is also very, very important. And it has to be value based ethical conclusion. So this you should remember. Because this should be structure of any answer which you are giving. And we will see also today, whatever model answers we are going to see, that how these parameters are fulfilled there. Then third thing is definition plus context introduction. That is, you have to start with a very, very crisp kind of definition of the concept or theory, or the whatever idea it has been asked. And then you have to add some contextual sentence linking concept to public administration or daily ethical dilemmas. One example also, for example, let us say empathy. Empathy is, there is a chapter on empathy also in this paper, particularly part A. Empathy is ability to understand and share. If you see, empathy is ability to understand and share the feelings of others. In public administration, it enables civil servants to frame policies more attuned to needs of marginalized sections. So basically, this is how you are linking the idea or the definition or the word to actual practical thing, whether it is public administration or daily administrative duties or ethical dilemmas. Then next point, which is very important, is you have to incorporate various thinkers' views also, whether it is Western thinkers or Indian thinkers. So, for example, Western important thinkers, Kant, Bentham, Mill, Aristotle, Rawls, etc. And in Indian context, if you see Gandhi, Vivekanand, Chanakya, Buddha, and Gita, then there are some reports also, administrative reports, very important. For example, Nolan Committee, which is of England, and then second ARC, which was constituted in India itself. So Administrative Reform Commission reports. So basically, these reports also contain a lot of ethical practices which bureaucrats or which civil servants have to follow. So these things also you need to mention. I just want to tell you, if you remember exact sentence or exact wording of the report or the what that thinker or the philosopher has said, you need to quote that. But if by chance if you don't remember, even writing names also is very, very important. So don't forget. If you don't remember the whole quotation or whole idea which is mentioned there, doesn't matter. Word to word, you need not remember. But definitely you have to mention the names of these. Then another point is use of diagrams, flowcharts, tables, etc. If time permits and if the question requires. Because sometimes there, if suppose some distinguish between is asked, definitely you can have two columns and then you can write point wise, or some other visual aids if you can prepare if question permits. So, for example, ethical dilemmas, decision making processes, comparing ethical theories, all these things you can also show by flowcharts, etc. If you feel the time is there, because last week also I told ethics paper is very time demanding. Every question, I mean, particularly part A question, you have to do 10 marks question, you have to do in 7 to 8 minutes. 20 marks question, you have to do in 14 to 15 minutes. So you have to stick to this time. So if you want to stick to time, you cannot simply waste it. So sometimes time may not be available, but sometimes if it is available, please do that, because these kinds of diagrams or these kinds of charts may help quicker comprehension and sometimes fetch better marks also. But again, please don't overcrowd your answer, because sometimes in haste or sometimes in over enthusiasm of making those charts and this sketches, etc., we try to overcrowd the whole page or whole this thing. So that also is not required. So please understand that. Then another point is balanced arguments. See, and along with balanced argument, I will see another point. Last week also I told, don't impose your personal opinion on that. So balanced arguments means you have to present both sides. You simply cannot say, because every idea can be criticized. So, and there is a, I mean, if some philosopher has given some ethical theory, there are some critiques of also that theory. So if required, you need to mention that also. So for a dilemma or for ethical theory, you have to mention both sides of the dilemma. So please understand that your argument has to balance, and you can use the sentences like that. For example, these are phrases which usually we use after writing one view. If we want to add another view, we will say on the other hand, or on the one hand, or balancing competing values becomes essential. So all these phrases as an example, it has been given. It's not that necessarily it should be used, but it's an example kind of thing that this will balance your answer basically. Then I told earlier also, examples are very, very crucial. You have to give real life examples. For example, historical figures. Gandhi's example is very, very important wherever required. Truth, non-violence. Then there are some administrators who have either sacrificed their life or have done very, very great work in reforming the system. That also you can mention. Then basically international, for example, Nelson Mandela or something like. So examples usually fetch good marks. So if you, because as I told, the ethics is not a very theoretical paper, it's a practical kind of analysis also. So you have to remember the appropriate example and you need to mention that. But one just a matter of caution, I will say, don't mention any officer or personality which is controversial, because controversial means you are risking yourself, because sometimes the if examiner likes that, he may give good marks, or sometimes he doesn't like, he may. So controversial personalities, please try to avoid that. It's very, very I mean, prudent advice, because if in haste we mention something and if somebody some examiner doesn't like that, it may be a counterproductive as well. uh, then for theoretical questions, focus on the definition, principles, philosophers, uh, and also uh, blend concepts with real world relevance. So it's very simple. Already we have discussed, same thing is written in different form. For case studies particularly, uh, you have to use ethical decision making models, and you have to analyze in these 5 steps. This also last week we discussed. recognize the ethical dilemma, identify stakeholders, apply moral theories, justify most ethical option, and suggest a course of action, maintaining integrity and public good. But again, a word of caution, avoid over philosophizing, because you have to keep things practical here, less theory, more practical. So please understand that you have to uh, understand that this is not a philosophy paper, or this is, you are not going to do something uh, which is only theoretical. So basically, this is a practical kind of paper. So you have to uh, uh, avoid that kind of thing. But then there is language of ethics also. Certain words, phrases, etc. Earlier also I told you at least 100 words or phrases you should have, which frequently, wherever required, you should use. For example, some examples are given here. So because these examples uh, somehow show that you are quite uh, aware of those ethical principles or the ideas which need to be followed in general administration. For example, fostering trust in governance, ensuring equitable justice. All these things will be useful for you in GS other papers also, as well as even essay papers also. Please understand, this ethics paper is not only useful for ethics, but also for other GS papers and for essay paper and for even interview also. Because if you reach up to interview level, then definitely these kind of wordings, phrases, ideas will be very, very useful to impress the interview board also and the examiners also. So fostering trust in governance, ensuring equitable justice, prioritizing the most vulnerable, demonstrating moral courage, uh, then despite adverse circumstances, upholding public trust, duty-bound approach, promoting common good, demonstrating accountability. So all these are basically examples. So if you uh, are using such, definitely you are going to impress the examiner, and your answer will become more mark fetching. Then conclusion has to be, as already told, conclusion has to be futuristic. It has to be positive. It has to be filled with optimism and visionary, ethically visionary, because ethically it has to be correct. So conclusion should radiate hope, ethical governance, or constitutional values. See, this we have not discussed much earlier, but see, in constitution, particularly you may be knowing preamble, fundamental rights, and directive principles. So you have to, many times in your, while answering, you have to use, because any civil servant is bound by constitution, or he has the duty of adhering to constitutional principles. So this is also very, very important. So your conclusion should radiate hope, ethical governance, or constitutional values. Then you have to reinforce key values, that is empathy, build social trust, integrity, democracy. All these things also should be reflected in your concluding remarks. So, for example is it can end with an ethical quote or constitutional value. For example, justice, equality, fraternity, or administrative values which are mentioned in second ARC. For example, integrity, accountability, compassion, etc. So basically, this, if we follow broadly, we will be able to write some good answers, which will be definitely mark fetching, and we'll be able to do quite good in ethics paper. Now let us see what we can write last week's question. I don't know if some of you might have attempted. Uh, so, but since we don't have time to discuss it at this point of time, so I will just show what I have written so that you can understand and how these principles which I have just explained are applied here. See, first question was last week, which we gave. What do you understand by moral courage? How is it different from physical courage? Illustrate with an example. This is 150 words question, 10 marks question, and suppose it comes in part A. So first, directly we will go to moral courage. We have to define what is moral courage. We have to tell what is moral courage and how it is different from physical courage. So if you see, first paragraph is that only. Moral courage is the inner strength to act ethically and uphold one's principles despite fear of negative consequences. such as social backlash, professional loss, or isolation. It involves choosing the right course of action guided by conscience and moral reasoning. Unlike physical courage. Now, here we are telling how it is different from physical courage. Unlike physical courage, which involves facing physical danger or bodily harm, moral courage requires confronting intangible threats like reputational damage or systemic pressure. So, and then again in next paragraph, we are giving a, because we are quoting one philosopher and trying to give the definition what he has given of moral courage. Courage is readiness to endure discomfort for the sake of moral integrity. This is what Kidder has said. It is essential for ethical leadership and public accountability. So again, here we are adding that for what it is required in public administration. And then real life example, because question also says, give some, illustrate with an example. So real life example, for example, there was an engineering service officer who died because of his whistle blowing. So this example we have given. And then we are mentioning here Gandhian principle and Nishkam Karm of Bhagavad Gita. So basically, and then again, we are concluding, let us see in a positive way, moral courage in public service ensures integrity, promotes good governance, and sustains the constitutional vision of justice, equality, and accountability. Here, constitution also we are mentioning. So basically, you see how we are incorporating and model answer the things which we have just discussed just now. Then similarly, if we see second question, which we tried to we gave last week. Second question is, integrity is considered the foundation of public service. Explain the concept of integrity and illustrate how it influences decision making in public administration. Again, 150 words, 10 marks question. So here we'll start again with the integrity. So what is integrity and how it influences decision making, etc. So you see, integrity refers to the unwavering adherence to moral and ethical principles such as honesty, impartiality, transparency, and consistency. In public administration, it denotes doing the right thing regardless of external pressure, incentives, or surveillance. It ensures harmony between, I'm not going to explain at this point of time the meaning of this. You please apply your mind, understand, and then try to write whatever questions you have, model questions or some guess questions or chapter-wise questions. Please try to write answers like this. If you want, you can send me also for evaluation, etc. I will evaluate. But anyway, I will be giving about 100 such questions in due course on weekly classes and YouTube channel, so that a very good practice will be there. And as I told last week also, I'm going to start particularly for those students who are appearing this year's exam, test series also from the month of last week of May or June first week, so that there will be real examination like practice also for those students. So you see, now first we are defining what is integrity and how it influences the decision making, and then we are also mentioning ethical theory. For example, Kant's deontological ethics. So it ensures harmony between one's values, speech, and conduct, reflecting Kant's deontological ethics, which emphasizes acting on out of duty and universal moral law. So integrity plays a pivotal role in decision making by curbing corruption, ensuring objectivity, and fostering fairness in discharge of official duties. It builds social capital by enhancing public trust and institutional legitimacy. So this is how it is affecting the decision making in administration. Now again, we are giving one example of E. Sridharan, how he has what he has done in metro work. And then again, we are quoting Second Administrative Reforms Commission report, that integrity is the bedrock of good governance. This is what is the quotation from this second ARC. So in democracy, it serves as a moral compass, ensuring decisions align with constitutional values, the rule of law, and collective public interest. So basically, in very limited words, let us say 150 words, how all those things can be incorporated, which we have discussed just now, And these kind of answers definitely, suppose there is it's 10 marks question, you are definitely going to get at least 6 marks out of 10 if you are able to write. Even if examiner is not very impressed, he will give 6. Sometimes he may give 7 also. So these kind of answers are going to fetch very good marks. Now let us see what was case study thing, because uh, if you remember, because I will show the case study also first, and then we will go to the case study answer. Uh, if we see, mm, yes. See, this is case study one. You are the district collector of a densely populated district during a sudden outbreak of new infectious disease. The vaccine supply received is grossly inadequate to cover the entire vulnerable population. Central government has directed that the elderly and people with comorbidity should be prioritized. However, your district has a large number of migrant laborers who are highly mobile and live in congested areas, making them more likely to spread the infection if unvaccinated. Do you follow the official guidelines strictly or prioritize vaccination of the mobile laborers population to reduce transmission, even if it means temporarily delaying doses for some elderly? So this was first case study. So identify ethical issues, discuss possible course of action, and evaluate each option and conclude what option you will choose. So this was first case study. What was second case study which we gave last week? You are a senior officer in the government department. You discover that a major infrastructure project being carried out by a reputed private company is violating environmental norms and causing irreversible ecological damage to a tribal forest. The project has high economic stakes and is expected to generate thousands of jobs. There is a pressure from political leadership to not obstruct development. You are considering becoming a whistleblower by reporting the violations to media or judiciary. Should you expose the truth and risk your job and public backlash, or silently comply for the sake of developmental benefits? So these two were the case studies. And I want to tell you, because from my own experience also, I'm telling, these kind of cases or these kind of scenarios almost occur continuously in administration. So it's not a very unreal kind of cases. These are very real case studies, and almost all the officers who have worked like me might have faced numerous such situations like this. So these are real kind of case studies. So what can be the answer for this? If let us understand that now at this point of time. See, okay, so first case study is a vaccine distribution dilemma, because on the one hand, there are elderly people with comorbidities, because government has instructed that you give priority to them, and then you are having migrant laborers in the district, whom you will do and what you will do. So basically, the analysis of the question, I mean, we have already seen there are 5 steps involved. So in that 5 steps, what can be the analysis? The case involves a conflict between public health, policy compliance, and adaptive ethical decision making in crisis management, because there is a crisis kind of situation. So for some crisis situations, you should understand that the instructions which come from government or from top officials may not cover all 100% situation. So this is one of the such situations. As a district collector, I must ethically allocate a limited supply of vaccine amidst competing vulnerable groups, the elderly and migrant laborers. So basically, your dilemma is whom to choose. Government instruction is that you give it to elderly people who are very high at risk, but you have migrant laborers who are transmitting this whole disease very fast. So what are the ethical issues involved? Equity versus equality, rule compliance versus contextual morality. So here context demands something else, but rule compliance demands something else. Then rights of vulnerable groups versus collective welfare, then public trust and institutional legitimacy, and then who are the stakeholders? Elderly population is definitely one, migrant laborers, general public also, because general public is going to be affected. If migrant laborers are not vaccinated quickly, the general public will be affected. Health workers are another stakeholder, government and policy makers, because they have given the instructions, they have framed the policy. And then the concerned officer, the collector or whosoever is taking the decision. What are the options available? Strictly follow the official guidelines, that is prioritize the elderly and people with comorbidities and vaccinate them. Then second option is prioritize migrant laborers to control transmission risk. Third option is adopt a hybrid model, distribute vaccines proportionately to both groups. Fourth model is request for more vaccines from higher authorities while temporarily allocating based on immediate local risk. Now, what are the ethical theories which are applicable here? Let us understand that. First is utilitarianism of Bentham and Mill. This is also called consequentialism. So both are same, because utilitarianism is basically a consequential theory. Consequentialism contains other theories also, but utilitarianism is one of the main or prime theory of consequentialism. So this was advocated by Bentham and Mill. So it says greatest good for greatest number. So prioritizing migrant workers may curb transmission. So therefore, either option 2 or option 3, as per this theory. Then what Kant's deontological ethics of Kant, what it's follow the option 1, because duty and adherence to rules is very, very important for Kant, and uphold the institutional integrity. But we should remember Kant also said that emphasize on universal moral duties. So universal moral duty is saving lives based on rational principles. Then what is justice-based theory of Rawls? What it says? Fairness to the least advantage. That is, both groups are vulnerable here. So both migrant workers face social invisibility and health vulnerability. So a balanced redistribution, that is option 3, is perhaps Rawls' view. Then what Gandhian ethics says? Gandhian ethics of Sarvodaya or Antyodaya, that focus welfare of the weakest, selfless service. So Gandhi would advocate a compassionate, inclusive approach, protecting both those at risk of death and those likely to cause transmission. So what is our conclusion and answer basically? So preferred option is option 3, that is hybrid allocation. So answer will be, I would adopt option 3, a hybrid allocation strategy supported by transparent communication and data-backed prioritization. So this is also very important. These use of these words are very, very important. Supported by transparent communication and data-backed prioritization. This upholds public trust, equity, and context-sensitive governance. I would also appeal for additional doses and create a contingency vaccination plans on real-time risk assessment. So basically, you see the answer. Use of ethical loaded words are very, very important, and it has been used here. Even though option 3, you can directly in one sentence also say, I would prefer option 3, but then why? So you have to explain in ethically sensitive words. So this is important. This decision reflects key civil service values. What are key civil service values? Responsiveness, integrity, compassion, and objectivity. And then if you have time, you can quote this statement of Potter Stewart. Ethics is knowing the difference between what you have a right to do and what is right to do. This is very important, a very good sentence quote. So this also is quite useful. Thus, by balancing ethical theories and practical wisdom, I would strive to serve the best interest of all, especially the most vulnerable. So this is a very positive looking conclusion. And if you end it by this, definitely you have attempted this case study with full marks. Definitely you are going to achieve quite good marks as far as this case study is concerned. Now, what was case study 2? This is a whistleblower's conflict. You are a senior officer deciding whether to expose an environmental violation in a large development project or not. So this was the dilemma. Detailed question we have already studied. We have read, so we know that. Now, what can be the answer for this? The case presents a classic ethical dilemma between professional liability and moral responsibility toward environmental protection and tribal rights. What are the ethical issues and stakeholders? Ethical issues involve integrity versus complicity, environmental ethics versus economic development, public interest versus political pressure, rule of law versus institutional conformity, whistleblowing versus career security. And then what are the stakeholders? Tribal community, definitely, environment and future generations, because any damage to environment is going to damage future generations. Then local population dependent on jobs, because some big industry is coming, so definitely jobs are at stake. Then private company, because the owners of the company. Then political leadership, and the concerned civil servant. So these are stakeholders. What are possible courses of action? Stay silent, allow the project to continue, report internally to higher officials and seek action, then blow the whistle externally, that is go to media or judiciary or whatever you want to do. Then gather evidence and pursue a phased approach. Begin with internal reporting, escalate if necessary, using legal mechanisms. So these are 4 options which are usually available to a civil servant. Now, what are various theories which are applicable? Let us understand that also. Virtue ethics of Aristotle. It focuses on character and moral disposition. So what it says, a virtuous public servant demonstrates courage, integrity, and justice. So, I mean, this theory says remaining silent shows moral weakness. Exposing wrongdoing reflects ethical leadership. So it supports either third or fourth option. What is third? Blow the whistle externally, or fourth option. I mean, basically this says don't keep quiet. So staying silent is not at all in this dictionary. So basically, this is what virtue ethics. Deontological ethics, what it says, focus on duty and moral law. That is, uphold constitutional and environmental law. It's a categorical duty. So blind obedience to authority when injustice is evident is unethical. So either option 2 or option 4. So that is report internally to higher officers, or option 4, gather evidence and pursue a phased approach. What Bentham and Mill says with their theory of utilitarianism: evaluate consequences for the greatest number. Long-term environmental degradation outweighs short-term economic gain. Then protecting tribal habitats and ecology benefits current and future generations. So option 4, it shows that option 4 is more appropriate. Now, what environment ethics says? Deep ecology or land ethics. Recognize nature's intrinsic law. So basically, this definitely says strong supports to exposing the damage through legal or institutional action. What Gandhian ethics says: emphasize truth and non-violence. Moral courage in face of injustice is a Gandhian duty. Gandhi said that silence becomes cowardice when occasion demands speaking out the whole truth. So this is a statement from Gandhi. So Gandhi's theory or ethical theory says that option 4 is best. Now, what is conclusion? So as we have seen, most of the theories are indicating to option 4. So I would choose option 4. What is option 4? Document the violations, report them through internal institutional channels, and prepare to escalate if corrective action is not taken using protected whistleblowers mechanism. This path balances ethical duty, strategic action, and institutional respect. It aligns with civil services values also, for example, integrity, accountability, compassion for the marginalized, and commitment to constitutional values. So if required, I would also invoke protections under Whistleblowers Protection Act 2014 if necessary, and ensure that my actions are transparent, legally sound, and ethically justified. So basically, this completes 2 case studies and answers. Again, here Martin Luther King: our lives begin to end the day we become silent about things that matter. Thus, I uphold the ethics of my office not by blind obedience, but by acting with informed conscience, foresight, and courage. So by this, we will completing the model answers for 2 questions and 2 case studies. I am sure you might have understood how to write and how to tackle these case studies. In due course, we will take up much more model answers and case studies. Now, what I propose is we will go through 4 important ethical theories and the frameworks, which are, because in due course, in next 2 months' time, all 30 ethical theories and frameworks I will cover, along with the all 8 chapters, which are of the first part, that also will cover. So, in fact, ethics and human interface I wanted to cover today, but because shortage of time, I will be taking up next week. So first chapter, ethics and human interface, I will be taking next week. But what I will do today is the four ethical theories. Two of them basically are frameworks for analysis of the case study, and two are the actual theories we'll take this week. And then we'll try to see uh, uh, how these are very, very directly related to solution for case studies. So let us start with Kidder's paradigm. Now, last week, if you remember, while explaining the 30 odd theories, I very briefly I covered this Kidder's dilemma paradigms. Now, what is in detail we will understand, because once we understand in detail, then we'll be able to apply it properly. And if you apply in your case study mentioning these dilemmas or paradigms, definitely you are going to fetch good marks. So last week, if you remember, I told there are two uh, structural framework theories. One is Kidder, and then second, and another is uh, after Kidder, we will have this Potter box. So Kidder and Potter box theories are basically structure analysis theories of the, I mean, basically these theories do not give any answer, but they give a tool for breaking the case study and analyzing it so that we can apply other theories, ethical theories to find the correct answer. So now let us go, what is Kidder's paradigm? Now the main focus of Kidder's paradigm is, see what Kidder says, uh, understanding real ethical dilemmas are not right versus wrong. So Kidder says that actually ethical dilemmas are right versus right. So both options will appear to be right. And both are very competing kind of options. So this requires mature moral reasoning and balanced judgment. So this is what Kidder's core idea. He is basically an American ethical theorist. He says basically most genuine ethical dilemmas, as I told, are not right versus wrong, but right versus right. These are situations where competing values of duty come into conflict. So examples also he has given. So he has given four classic paradigms of moral conflict. So we will see what are four classic paradigms. And he says that these kind of moral conflict, you will observe in personal as well as professional life. So not only as a civil servant you will observe, but also you will observe these kind of conflicts in your personal life also. And we keep on observing like that. And these are very useful for analyzing the case studies or analyzing the situations which we come across in our administration or even personal life. So what are those four ethical dilemma paradigms? First, he says truth versus loyalty. He says that in some case, there may be a conflict between truth and loyalty. For example, uh, uh, I mean, truth includes honesty, transparency, and loyalty includes loyalty to me colleagues or to family or to some institution. So this kind of conflict may come. Example he has given, a junior officer discovers financial irregularities committed by his senior. Now, what should he do? He should report the truth or remain loyal to his senior. Because there is, as you know, in a bureaucracy, there is a hierarchy. So, junior most and senior most, or there is a very clear-cut hierarchy. So, what should he do? So, now here, the competing values are truth versus loyalty. He should be loyal to his senior or mentor, or he should go with truth. Now, second competing value is individual versus community. And this often we face because, see, suppose individual rights or community welfare. What will you support? For example also, let us see. A policymaker must decide whether to allow a factory to operate that provides jobs to individuals but pollutes a river affecting thousands of people. So here the conflict is between individual and community. Then again, another, he has given short-term versus long-term. For example, granting immediate subsidies for electoral popularity which most of the governments are doing at this point of time, are investing in long-term infrastructure or education, which should be given priority. So here, short-term or long-term benefits. So this also gives the a very dilemma, which is right versus right. Then justice versus mercy. So dilemma may involve strict fairness of legal principles or compassion or forgiveness. For example, a bureaucrat must decide whether to terminate the service of a single mother caught in minor violation or allow her to continue. So here the dilemma is between compassion, that is mercy, versus justice. So what Kidder says, Kidder suggests that resolution comes not from rigid rules, but from applying core ethical principles. So what, I mean, let us understand what first Kidder says, that usually in real life situation, the dilemmas are right versus right. There are 4 categories he has given. And then he says that resolution is not by rigid rules or mechanical. It comes from applying core ethical principles. What are core ethical principles? For example, I mean, some examples are given, but I told you last week also, more than 25 to 30 core principles are there. Few are mentioned here. For example, consequentialism, that is utilitarianism, end-based thinking. Then deontology of Kant, that is rule-based thinking. Then care-based thinking, that is called golden rule also. Then we have virtue ethics of Aristotle. Then we have Gandhian ethics. So a number of principles are there. Or for example, if we have a case-based, there is environmental ethics, there is social media ethics, there is media ethics. So all those things we need to apply. And then a civil servant must balance competing values using moral reasoning, empathy, fairness, and foresight to make ethically sound decisions. This is what suggestion of Kidder. So Kidder's paradigm provide a practical framework. So again, I remind you, Kidder is not giving any solution. He is only providing a practical framework for analyzing complex ethical case study. And he's saying that once you break your case studies, then apply the ethical principles, whichever are applicable here, and try to come out with a balanced reasoning, moral reasoning, and empathetical decision, which involves fairness and foresight. So this is Kidder's paradigm. Now we'll go to Potter box model. What is Potter box? This is again structure analysis, framework analysis of case studies. Now here, the core, which main idea of the Potter box is a systematic, step-by-step framework for ethical decision-making situations involving moral ambiguity, value conflict, or competing loyalties. Again, Potter box was a philosopher from Harvard Divinity School, and he has given a value neutral analytical framework. Value neutral analytical framework means, again, his process also is not giving any answer, but only a process how to analyze. So he has given a 4-step process. So what are 4-step process? Let us see that. First step is definition. That is facts of the case. So for example, what is happening? Clearly identify the objective facts without bias or assumptions. Understand the context, stakeholders, action taken, and potential consequences. So this is what is first step of Potter box. Second step, values. Identify conflicting values. What are the values in conflict? Because earlier also we have seen whether it is truth versus loyalty or justice versus compassion. So all those things you need to identify. So values include honesty, fairness, efficiency, loyalty, compassion, justice, integrity, etc. So which values are under conflict? So that we have to identify. For example, it may be loyalty versus fairness. It may be efficiency versus transparency. It may be individual versus group or collective, or it may be long-term versus short-term. So all those conflicts we have to identify. So this is second step. Third step is principles. Apply ethical theories. Which ethical theories are applicable? So that we have to identify. For example, 4, 5 here we have mentioned utilitarianism of Bentham and Mill, greatest good of greatest number, deontology of Kant, virtue ethics of Aristotle, Rawlsian justice of Rawls, of course, fairness to least advantage, ethics of care, and then Gandhian ethics is there. So all those theories, whichever are applicable. Again, I'm repeating, all theories may not be applicable in one situation. Maybe 2, 3, 4 sometimes may be applicable, which you have just now also seen while analyzing the given case studies earlier. So this is third step given by Potter box. What is fourth step? Loyalties. To whom do you own the responsibility? What is your loyalty? So this in fourth step you have to identify. For example, what can be the institutions to whom you have to be loyal? So you have to be loyal to constitution and law. You have to be loyal to vulnerable citizens. You have to be liable to institution or service to whom you belong, or to your personal moral conscience. So these can be your loyalties. And then he says that structured thinking prevents impulsive or biased decisions. Ethical transparency defends your decision with moral rationale. Balance of duties helps in reconciling competing professional and personal responsibility. So all these points he is telling that after analyzing this four steps, then you apply the theory, and then following these important guidelines, you try to decide that. So basically, Potter box is not giving any answer or decision, but he is giving a method to analyze the case studies. So Potter box model is a powerful ethical reasoning tool. Basically, in a word of gray zones. Gray zones again means right versus right, because both options may be right. It offers a clear moral compass without being prescriptive. It promotes reflective thinking, value analysis, and ethical accountability. So basically, Potter box means acting with integrity, fairness, and constitutional fidelity, even when the right choice is not the easy one. So this is second theory I just want to tell. Now third, this week I am going to take up the Gandhian, because this is also very, very important. You move, I mean, many of the case studies or answers you have to mention, or you will be mentioning that. So therefore, this is very important. So we'll see what Gandhiji has said regarding decision making and the bureaucrats' decision making particularly. Now, Gandhi's core principle is empathy driven, moral reasoning rooted in compassion for most vulnerable. As you know, Gandhi has given the theory of Antyodaya, which is last mile of the society, or the most vulnerable person we should be worrying about first. And accordingly, what is Gandhian talisman? Talisman means tabiz or jantar, which he has given. Uh, uh, Particularly, I mean, it is for everybody, but it's also particularly applicable to civil servants or bureaucrats. So what Gandhiji say last week also, I remember we discussed this, but again I will tell you. I will give you a talisman whenever you are in doubt, or when the self becomes too much with you. Apply the following test. What is the test? Recall the face of the poorest and the weakest man whom you may have seen, and ask yourself if the step you contemplate is going to be of any use to him. So basically, this is Gandhi's measurement of correctness of the action. And this gives the answer to most of the complicated situations also in case studies. So this is basically Gandhian talisman. Now, what is philosophy behind this? Let us understand that. First is compassionate decision making. Moral actions must be grounded, guided by their impact on weakest sections, that is poor, voiceless, and vulnerable. Then this also reflects selflessness and humility. The talisman calls upon the decision maker to move beyond ego, self-interest, or political ambition. And this gives a very, very important way in case of moral clarity, in case of doubt. It provides situational ethical test in the moments of ethical dilemma or conflict of interest. Then it is human-centric public service. So Gandhi basically reframes governance as an instrument to ensure dignity, autonomy, and empowerment of the oppressed. So again, Gandhi's main focus is oppressed, most vulnerable, or weakest or poorest of the poor of the society. So this Gandhian talisman is basically useful for that. Then these two examples also I have mentioned. I'm not going into this. You read it because tomorrow I will be putting all this PDF material in the WhatsApp group as well as Telegram group, so you can read that. This will explain how Gandhian talisman is applied practically. So this again, you can read that. How it differs, I mean, because how Gandhian theory differs with Western theories, for example. Utilitarianism, what it says, greatest good of greatest number. What Gandhi says, Gandhian ethics says, greatest good of the weakest first. So this is what Gandhi's thing. Kantian theory, that is Kantian deontology, duty, universal moral law. What Gandhi says, Gandhi emphasized duty guided by compassion. Then ethical theory, that is ethics with care. In fact, Gandhian theory is more close to ethics with care, because ethics with care says contextual of empathy and rational responsibility. Gandhi says social justice, strong overlap with Gandhi's people-centered moral imagination. So basically, these two theories, ethics with care and Gandhian theory, are overlapping with each other. So in conclusion, we can say that Gandhian talisman is not just a quote. It is a living moral guide, and this is very important for public service, integrity, social justice, and empathy. This involves sensitivity to suffering of the weakest, serving the last person first. So this is again a very important thing, that we have to focus on the last person first. Now, after Gandhian this thing, let us again see what is consequential theories, because this is very, very important. And next week we will study deontology of Kant also. But this is also one of the most important theories which we keep on applying on various case studies. See, consequential theory is outcome-based theory. This is also called outcome-based theory or outcome-based ethics, because it here right or wrong is judged by result or consequences. What is the result or consequence? Then accordingly, ethical decision is taken. And as you know, utilitarianism is most prominent constitutional theory. So consequential theory basically is outcome based, and utilitarianism is the most prominent constitutional theory. This was propounded by first Bentham and then subsequently Mill. Now Bentham actually was gave more emphasis on quantitative theory. Mill gave more emphasis on qualitative theory regarding evaluation of pleasure and pain. But the fundamental principle was greatest good of the greatest number. So this is the fundamental principle. What are the key concepts? Bentham came up with a hedonic calculus. That is how a method to calculate a pleasure and pain. How with what action pain increases and with what action pleasure increases. So he has come up with a calculation mechanism basically. So that is called hedonic calculus. Here in that calculus or calculation method, the factors which included intensity, duration, certainty, propinquity, fecundity, purity, and extent. So all these take into account, you can calculate whether pleasure has increased or pain has increased to which number of people. Then Mill, as we have already seen, Mill promoted qualitative pleasure. So what is qualitative? He says, his statement is, better to be a human being dissatisfied than a pig satisfied. So basically his emphasis was intellectual and moral pleasures, for example, reading, learning, helping, etc., is superior to physical pleasures, for example, eating, comfort, etc. So this is theory of Mill. Then again, there are two variants of utilitarianism. One is act utilitarianism, and then is rule utilitarianism. What is act? This thing says assess each individual action based on outcomes. So this is the act utilitarianism. Rule utilitarianism says follow rules that generally produce the greatest good of greatest number. So this is basically two variants of the this utility theory. Now there is a number of criticism also of this theory, because this theory, as you know, is opposed by so many, and the reasons are: first thing, it neglects individual rights over minority interests or minority interests, because greatest good of greatest number means definitely individuals are neglected as well as minority is also neglected. So in a real democracy, this may not be a very useful concept. So this is one criticism, and a strong criticism basically. Then there is a difficulty in quantifying pleasure also, because it's a very subjective kind of thing, and there is no standard pleasure or pain measuring mechanism available till now. So this is again a criticism. Then third thing is it risks justifying ethical means for desirable ends. So basically here, because you are focusing on the result, so in process or the means may not be important for that, because ends are more important. So it goes again Gandhian theory also, it goes again deontology also, because here you are not focusing on or stressing on means. Means can be unethical if they produce better results. So this these are the criticism of this theory. Then again a case study is given. You can go through that. I'm not going to that. And then caution while answering with case studies, etc. Please, I mean, this is not only for this theory, but for other theories also. Please mention the thinkers. For example, here in this Bentham and Mill, names should be mentioned. Then keywords should be mentioned. For example, here, utility, consequences, greatest good of greatest number, rule versus act. And then while outcome-based reasoning provides pragmatic clarity, it must be complemented with justice, rights, and compassion to avoid moral insensitivity. So again, as I have told, a lot of criticism is there. So even if you are analyzing some case as per this theory, please see that it fulfills these requirements also, that justice, rights, and compassion. Otherwise, you will be termed as morally insensitive. So this again is a uh, issue. So please understand that no one theory can be absolutely applied, and it has to be a balance basically. Then constitutional values also are important. Then your service values are also important. So all those things we can see. So these are the four theories basically which I wanted to cover today. Uh, now I will just show you what will be our schedule of basically the whole month. So next week we will be covering ethics and human interface. And again, we will take up 4 ethical theories for case studies. And then we will take up model answer for 2 questions and 2 case studies. Next to next week, we will take up attitude, and then next aptitude. And definitely we'll take up 4 ethical theories every week so that we can understand in detail. So by June, maybe by mid-June or something, by 15th June or so, I will be completing all the theoretical portion. And after that, only we have to have practical thing. I will practice questions, model questions, as well as the uh, case studies. As I've already told earlier, we will be having, I will be posting from 1st of May, almost daily one case study or one model answer on my YouTube channel also. That there also you can see here every week. Definitely we will have discuss 2 case studies and 2 model answers as far as the questions are concerned. Now, what will be the questions of this week? Because the same thing we will discuss next week. So these 2 questions I'm giving, you can try yourself also. What do you understand by the term ethical sensitivity? What is ethical why is ethical sensitivity considered fundamental, foundational to ethical decision making in public life? Second question is explain the interplay of free will, intention, and consequence in determining the ethicality of an action. How does this understanding help in making ethically sound decisions in public administration? And then there are 2 case studies also. This you can go through. So if you are interested, you may send your answer PDF for evaluation on this mail ID. Model answers to these questions will be discussed next week's Zoom session. This is what I have to say today. So with this, I complete my this thing. So if anybody wants to say anything, otherwise we'll close. Okay, thank you. Then we'll meet next week, and again we will discuss all those things. So meanwhile, I will be available on YouTube. I will be posting a number of material on YouTube channel so that there also you can see. So thank you all the participants again, once again. Thank you.